Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandra Vesey Einhorn. I am the chair of the Long-Term Recovery Coalition of Broward County, and I serve as the executive director of the Coordinating Council of Broward. Our goal for the Long-Term Recovery Coalition is to be a partner to all of you. The mission of the Long-Term Recovery Coalition of Broward is to achieve efficient and effective disaster coordination by encouraging collaboration amongst its members in all phases of disaster in order to address the unmet needs of the community. So we do not provide any direct services, we do not provide any funding, but we are here to be a collaborative mechanism to bring together government, nonprofit, for-profit, and the faith-based community at all phases of disaster. One of my Sandra isms is that Mother Nature doesn't see county lines. So anything that I do under the umbrella of the LTRC, I make sure to do in partnership with our counties to the north and south. I think that we all have more than enough experience to know that if a storm or if a natural disaster hits one of our counties, all of our counties are impacted by that. The entire region is impacted by that. And it is incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we know who each other are so that when we do need each other, we're not chasing our tail looking for contacts, and those contacts and those relationships are there. Our goal for these convenings is pretty simple. It's to share information and to the extent that we can eliminate any type of myths or misconceptions. I don't need to tell all of you that victims of disaster oftentimes have a disconnect between the assistance that is available to them versus the assistance that might make them whole. And when you are speaking to disaster victims that just want to be made whole, I think it's really important for everyone to know ahead of time and to really level set ahead of time on what everyone's capability is, what everyone's focus is, not just so that we know what our unmet needs are, but again, so that we can clearly, plainly, articulately, efficiently, and effectively communicate with both community stakeholders, partners, and victims of disaster. We have a full agenda today. Everyone should see the agenda in the chat box. Some light housekeeping. I see that everyone's done it, so great. No one is on Zoom for the first time. But just as a reminder, please keep yourself off of mute. If you have a question, you can either throw the question into the chat or you could use the raise hand function, and we will be more than happy to call on you. I will provide an opportunity for questions after everyone speaks. Not everyone has a formal presentation. A lot of folks just have a verbal report out. And again, this is just an opportunity for you to put a face to the name. Everyone will drop their contact information into the chat so that you could follow up with them as necessary. And then from here, our goal is really just to keep in touch, to continue to pray for blue skies and just be thankful that we have these relationships, even when we don't necessarily need them during storms. I want to acknowledge and give thanks to all of the partners, specifically everyone that is going to be reporting. And of course, this could not have been pulled off without the assistance of Harrison Grant Williams, Chief of Staff for County Commissioner Nan Rich, who chairs our Coordinating Council of Broward, and Yana Kirmaz, who is not with us today, but is just the greatest admin support that any lady could ever ask for. With that, I am going to just turn it over to our first speaker. Thank you to Brian Lee from the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Brian is going to be our first speaker, and I'll just quickly share this. I shared it earlier when just some of the speakers were speaking. I've been blessed over the last several years to travel the country, whether it's about housing or it's about disaster, and I really want everyone to recognize how lucky we are to live in Florida. Florida Department of Emergency Management is so much better than so many other states. Unfortunately, it's from lessons learned from so many storms, but just the effectiveness and the efficiency of a state entity as large as FDEM is definitely a blessing to all of us during hurricane season, but also before and after. So, Brian, happy to have you. And I think Harrison, you've got the presentation. All right, so Harrison's going to throw up the presentation, and then Brian, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. For those who do not know me, my name is Brian Lee. I'm the Region 10 Recovery Coordinator with the Florida Division of Emergency Management. I cover Region 10 includes Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe County. Here's my contact information, email, and phone number if you have any questions after my presentation. Next slide, please. So the mission of the Florida Division of Emergency Management includes coordination, collaboration, and communication with our stakeholders for a more resilient Florida. This also includes the State Emergency Response Team, also known as CERT, which is its mission is to provide for the safety and well-being of Floridians throughout rapid, coordinated, and effective response to and recover from emergencies and disasters within the state of Florida, as well as emergency mutual aid agreements with various states across the country. Next slide, please. So FDEM has regional staff that are divided both on the response and recovery side within 10 regions throughout the entire state of Florida from the north and south. There are two individuals that work within the region and live within the region. And this includes the response side as well as the recovery side. On this slide, you can see the different regional contacts on the response side and recovery side throughout the state. Next slide, please. So the function of the Florida CERT team includes the forward element, which is to coordinate, dispatch, and account and demobilize resources following an emergency/disaster. The state has augmented its team from a 15 point team to a 20 personnel team, which is accompanied by FEMA's 12-person regional IMAT team. And as well as in 2024, FDEM established its full-time incident managed team, which serves as the first forward deployment throughout any emergency/disaster within the state of Florida. Next slide, please. Some of the ESFs there have included over 20 ESFs, as you can see from this slide. And these ESFs are staffed in the State Emergency Operations Center located in Tallahassee whenever there's a declared state of emergency within the state of Florida. Next slide, please. I'm going to transition now to talk a little bit more about recovery, since this is a recovery meeting with various stakeholders. So the FEMA public assistance thresholds for this year specifically, for the state of Florida, we would have to meet the state threshold is $40.8 million. Specifically for Broward County, it will be $9.5 million threshold. For Miami-Dade, it's a $13.1 million threshold. And for Monroe County, it'll be around 402,800 for that public assistance threshold in order to meet declare state of emergency to submit to FEMA. And these thresholds change according to the federal fiscal year annually on October 1st. Next slide, please. So transitioning now to individual assistance, there are a few updates for individual assistance for this year within 2025 to 2026. The max grant awards for fiscal year 2025 to 2026 have increased to an amount of $44,800, and this remains identical for financial housing assistance and other needs assistance. The serious needs assistance for FEMA has increased to a $790 one-time payment for affected households, and the clean and sanitize assistance remains limited to $300 per household, with a one-time payment currently reserved for more of flooding events. And as you can see, individual assistance is designed to coordinate assistance provided to individuals and households recovering from the disasters. Next slide, please. So FEMA does not have a threshold for any IA declaration compared to the PA declaration that I just discussed earlier with the different amounts of threshold. But FEMA does establish six different declaration factors for IA declaration, which includes state fiscal capacity and resource availability, uninsured home and personal property losses, disaster impacted population profile, the impact to community infrastructure, casualties, disaster related employment, and the state compiles all of these different factors in order to submit for a formal IA declaration to FEMA Region 4, which is headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Next slide, please. So, FEMA appeals. This is an important topic, especially when it comes to disaster survivors. Often, disaster survivors, once they receive a letter that they're declined for FEMA assistance, they won't continue the process. And some of these highlighted in this slide are the common mistakes that that FEMA denies disaster survivors for. Survivors often mistake FEMA oh, determination letters or requests for information with denials. The most common reason is for the lack of documentation. Appeals must be submitted within 60 days of the date listed on the household's FEMA determination letter. FEMA can adjust award amounts, reinspect homes, and provide additional support based on appeals. And on average, only 6% of IA applicants file an appeal with FEMA. So this means that when disaster survivors initially receive that determination letter, they kind of feel like FEMA is not going to help them, so they don't want to file an appeal, and it's also a lack of knowledge and education on their half, knowing that they can file an appeal based on like the most common reason is documentation initially. So when they do provide that documentation, when they appeal their FEMA's decision, most likely FEMA will move on and reward that determination for that disaster survivor. But that's the most common reason for disaster survivors not filing an appeal. Um, Next slide, please. So, on the topic of MARCs versus DRC, MARCs, multi-agency resource centers, are run by the state, Florida Division of Emergency Management, leading the state, being the state agency that leads that effort. And DRCs, also known as disaster recovery centers, are federally run by FEMA. So, based on all the personnel changes and everything, and everything that's going within FEMA, FEMA has indicated a move to reduce the amount of regional DRCs for an affected area during a disaster. Traditionally, before this change, FEMA will open up more DRCs in order to accommodate disaster survivors in, and receive and help them walk through that FEMA process for recovery. And so FEMA has now gone to a level where they are basically they're wanting to reduce the amount of DRCs to be open and opening more regional DRCs to those disaster affected areas. So in order to mitigate, this hasn't been set in stone yet, but this is the more of the direction that FEMA is leading to this hurricane season. So in order to mitigate this, FDEM is committed to opening up more multi-agency resource centers in every impacted county. And the marks will be contracted staff, state agency representation. It also includes resources, referrals, and information for impacted residents. This is the marks is a more ideal component to incorporate local resources at the local levels, so that they're available to those impacted residents within that emergency. Next slide, please. So this is basically an overview flow chart of how a mark would be like set up from the start and demobilized. Next slide, please. Yes, so the DRC, like I said, is federally managed by FEMA. The lead state agency is FDEM, of course, and it's only established upon a major disaster declaration for individual assistance. And basically, it's a one-stop shop that disaster survivors go to for federal assistance within FEMA and SBA to check on the status of their applications, submit documentation and appeals, and then receive additional information on federal programs. I forgot to mention another note is the FEMA's Disaster Survivor Assistance Program has also been leading to a direction that it's going to be cut significantly. And traditionally, FEMA's DSA teams, if for those that are not familiar, are FEMA personnel that go home to home to help disaster survivors register to FEMA's website for recovery aid. That has been significantly cut. Instead, the state's approach in order to mitigate this factor is that the state's committed to supporting canvassing and outreach, in which the state will have teams that are trained and equipped to aid in individual assistance registration, along with the distribution of information and resources. However, the teams that will be deployed should an emergency disaster happen will be unable to follow on FEMA applications because FEMA applications are run on a federal network system, and the state does not have access to the basically FEMA system. The only thing they'll be able to do is to urge residents to seek mark/DRC locations to do so, and potentially having FEMA staff also be on site at various marks that would be established in an impacted region. Next slide, please. This is the timeline for how a DRC would be created and demobilized following any emergency/disaster. And next slide, please. That is all I have for you guys today, providing you an overview of the state's response capabilities and recovery from the IA perspective, as well as the public assistance perspective. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and also drop it on the chat. Thank you very much.
Brian, thank you so much for that. And again, I really appreciate FDEM joining us on this call. Does anyone have any questions for Brian? All right, hearing no questions, and we are just going to continue to move along. Our next speaker is Clay Pacheco. Clay is the Director of Emergency Management for Broward County. And Clay, we're really happy that you're here. I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time today, and thank all of you for everything you do. We appreciate you. I've got a quick brief for you. Going to start on the preparedness side, just a couple of changes, but also with recovery. On the preparedness side, we've been looking at the modeling and looking at the outlook, and there's been a lot of rumors on social media. A strong El Nino is not going to bring storms. For those who haven't seen the outlook, we're looking at 8 to 14 named storms, 3 to 6 hurricanes, and 1 to 3 major hurricanes. But what I wanted to remind everyone that the last time we had a really strong El Nino like this one, it was 1992, and we ended up getting Andrew. So it's a lot of rumors on social media about this, but please do not pay attention to it. The other update I had on the preparedness side, please remember to check out our website, broward.org/hurricane. You can find everything you need there as far as evacuation zones, sheltering, and we have some pretty cool new checklists that we did for your personal preparedness. Spread the word to your friends, family, and neighbors. It helps when we're all prepared. And I'm also super ecstatic to mention that we launched our emergency management app. It's called Broward Ready, and you can download it on Apple and Google Play. Here's what it looks like. So please download it and take a look at that. Everything that's on our website, including special needs registry and all those wonderful items we deal with, are on our emergency management app. So that's been launched. Shifting over to recovery, several things have been going on. One of the things that really concerns me at the federal level is the reimbursements for disasters. Our friends in Florida who do an unbelievable job, as you mentioned, Sandra, they are currently owed, last I checked, $2.6 billion in reimbursements from FEMA for previous storms. My friends in Tennessee are up to $3.5 billion that is owed by the federal government, with 27 open disasters, which is terrifying. The fact that we're running that behind. One thing the other day on the 1st, I was part of a group panel doing a press conference at the National Hurricane Center, and we had the opportunity to meet with current FEMA acting director, Bob Fenton, but also Cam, Trump's nominee for FEMA, was there also. So they gave us a private room. And Pete Gomez from Miami-Dade and I were able to speak to them and express some of our concerns. My concerns on the recovery, how slow it's been, the reimbursement for recoveries. Also, I brought up the way they're looking at the FEMA Review Council recommendations for public assistance and for what Brian was talking about in regards to individual assistance, and really wanted to express my concern with them going to a block grant approach and all the different issues that would bring going down the road. So I expressed our concern. I expressed our concern about FEMA reimbursements. Also, our state Homeland Security grants are a couple years behind getting sent from FEMA and DHS. Also, our Urban Area Security Initiative money, which really enhances the capabilities of the whole region across the board for a terrorism response. Those are also running late. We were supposed to get fiscal year 25 about 8 months ago. We still haven't gotten it. It hasn't come down from the feds. So we had a great opportunity to sort of express our major concerns when it comes to reimbursements and preparedness grants to the FEMA nominees. And we'll keep working on that. I keep lobbying for it at the state level and at the federal level. And I will keep you guys advised as to how things progress. But as many of you know, the FEMA Review Council met, had all these recommendations for FEMA, many of which we would have to have an act of Congress to make those changes, but some of which, when their FEMA nominee hopefully gets appointed, some of those he will try and put into practice. And for those that don't know, Cam was there before, and you may remember he was nominated, took the job, then fired, nominated, took the job, then fired. So hopefully third time's a charm. He seemed open to our suggestions and the dialogue. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and I'll let you guys know any changes and how things are going on the recovery front. But thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. Any questions for me?
Clay, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And for Broward County folks, like I mentioned, Clay is the Director of Emergency Management here in Broward. He's going to drop his contact information into the chat. But it's been great to work with his team that includes Carla Taylor Bennett and, of course, Bill Condon, who used to be our LTRC director here in Broward. So, Clay, thank you for that. And good luck with the continued World Cup activities. I know these are keeping you busy.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to go off script a little bit and switch it over. Holly, I know that you need to get into the car, and I don't want you to have to speak from the car. So if we've got Holly Winhoven here from Monroe County Emergency Management. And Holly, welcome. Thank you for being here. And go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thanks for having me, Sandra, and I appreciate that. It takes a long time to get from key to key here, so I appreciate that. My name is Holly Winhoven. I am the Mass Care Administration Planner for Monroe County Emergency Management. I just came on in January, relocating from another county in Central Florida. So still a lot of different changes, but it's been fast moving since the end of January, since I started here when I opened up the first warming center in the Keys in probably 30 years. So it's been quite interesting to say the least. But right away, I identified a few of things that needed to be changed within Monroe County. First and foremost was some volunteer recruitment, for disaster work that would take place in the Keys. Because we have a lot of unique challenges, with our population and community here. I have been actively recruiting businesses to aid in comfort stations for emergency workers. Also setting up DRC locations within each key and placing those volunteers in that to man those DRCs if necessary. We've also transitioned to physical placards from physical placards to digital reentry, like a boarding pass that people would present if they needed to access the county early. They would use a boarding pass that would be specific to their person, connected to their driver's license number for essential personnel to help and aid in the recovery process. And we also have that agreement with Miami-Dade County in the case that it was a Cat 3 or above hurricane disaster to hit Monroe County. We would evacuate and offer Gen Pop sheltering as well as special needs sheltering within Miami-Dade County. So, yeah. Any questions for me?
Holly, I don't know if anyone else in the audience has any questions, but I would just love to hear from you. For those of us that are sort of more mainland than in Monroe,
Right.
in the aftermath of a storm, we can imagine that the unmet needs are amplified by the fact that, that the keys are so wide. What is it that community organizations can do, or what's the most helpful that we can do here on the mainland that would support you if the keys received the brunt of a storm impact?
I would say contact me prior, in preparedness for the season to offer, the capabilities so I'm aware of, the services that are offered by the mainland. I think that would be the most helpful thing for me so we can connect and prepare for it.
Great. I appreciate that. And we also have Megan who will be reporting out later on as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for that update, Holly. And again, safe travels.
Thank you all. And I'm going to put my contact information in the chat as well. Thank you, Sandra.
Great. Thank you. All right, moving on to Miami-Dade County Department of Emergency Management. Liana Aguilar, happy to have you. We had a great conversation when we spoke last month. We are definitely on the same page. So Clay is still there. Clay, I'm telling you, Broward and Miami, like we got this on lock. God forbid we get hit. I feel very confident that those relationships are there, that those partnerships are there, and that we can support each other. But Liana, go ahead. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm the Public-Private Partnership Coordinator here at the county. So to give just a little bit of an update, we are definitely heavily involved in FIFA World Cup activities. So we're working on finalizing the regional event action plan to facilitate a common operating picture and facilitating resource coordinations. So we will be operating at a level 2 partial activation. So that means some of our partners will be in our EOC, and then the rest of our partners will be on standby. They have been notified as well. As you know, we have 7 games that are going on throughout this time. So we're going to be activated, the whole like 30 to 40 days, and then providing information as needed. Here on the call with me as well, I have our recovery planner, David Dugard. So he's also working with me on recovery efforts, as well as with our long-term recovery group too. And then I also wanted to mention we have a coalition, Communities Organized to Respond in Emergencies, CORE, comprised of community-based, faith-based, and private sector partners established to meet the immediate and long-term needs of the community when disasters occur. So this coalition, we have 90 active partners that serve Miami-Dade County and also other counties as well. And we are actively providing trainings, webinars, exercises for our partners throughout this entire year in in preparation if something were to occur. And so if something does happen, then just letting you all know that we have this coalition. This coalition is ready and can be activated at any time, and can support our counties as well, Broward and Monroe County. Any questions? End of report.
Great, Liana. Thank you so much. Any questions for Liana? Oh, Clay, go ahead.
I just wanted to take a moment and thank Leanna for the coordination and collaboration and always counting on us and including us in her initiatives. She is a rock star and we truly appreciate you, Leanna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Liana, again, thank you so much. It's definitely helps me sleep at night knowing that our counties are coordinating. All right, I am moving on to Palm Beach. We did our South partners and now our North partners. Tomas Oliveras from Palm Beach Office of Emergency Management. Tomas, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me report out for Palm Beach County. My name is Tomas Oliveras. I'm a Palm Beach County Office of Emergency Management. I am an emergency management specialist too here, but basically my day-to-day activities is I'm the coordinator for Palm Beach County with the Long-Term Recovery Coalition, as well as the social media for Blue Skies, and then as well as I handle the business and industry group here in Palm Beach County. Just to give a little report out with Palm Beach County. We've been preparing for hurricane seasons. Now that we're in hurricane season, Palm Beach County has just been preparing, doing all the tasks that we need to check off of our list, generator checks, supplies, making sure our shelters and everything are up to date. In terms of the Long-Term Recovery Coalition, we have Catholic Charities, American Red Cross, United Way, Community Services for Palm Beach County, Legal Aid Society, that all are part of our Long-Term Recovery Coalition group, as well as the bulk of our coalition is definitely nonprofit and faith-based organizations and private agencies. So here in Palm Beach County, we've been trying to coordinate more with our nonprofit and faith-based organizations, going out there and doing outreach to try to basically get everybody into the community. So that way we can have the community withstand if a hurricane was to come through or a disaster comes through. Currently, we don't really have any open cases anymore. As of last year, 2 years ago, when we got hit by a hurricane, we had a tornado that came through in Wellington, and those cases have been transferred over from, they were originally with Catholic Charity. Now they're over with Endeavors, who's now going to be taking part in those cases. Other updates is that Palm Beach County is definitely supporting the FIFA tournament. So we're not hosting the games, but we are definitely hosting some teams over here. So Palm Beach County is going to be activating their EOCs during the game. It's going to be at a level 3 over here. So we'll just be monitoring, have like a skeleton crew basically on standby just in case anything was to go off. We would definitely be there to support our neighboring counties. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you guys. I appreciate putting a name to a face, and that if any of you need help over here, well, Palm Beach County is always willing to help our neighboring counties and any other county really of a disaster.
Great, Tomas, thank you very much. And again, I just want to emphasize, this isn't necessarily rocket science, but we need to make sure that we're developing these relationships and we're putting these names to faces during Blue Skies so that we are prepared. So, Tomas, I really appreciate you reporting out. And again, it's just good to know that we've got our partners up in Palm Beach County. Thank you for that.
Of course, thank you
Next
so much.
up on our agenda, hold on one second. There's just so many windows that are open right now. We're going back to the Keys, the Keys Health Ready Coalition. Megan, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Hey everyone, Sandra, thanks for having me. My name is Megan Bosey. I am the Readiness and Response Coordinator for Keys Health Ready Coalition. So that is the healthcare coalition in Monroe County. All of you have your own healthcare coalition. I don't see anyone else from any of the other Region 7s, but Palm Beach, you have your own. That's Herc, that's John James. Or I'm sorry, Palm Beach. Broward, you have Kelly Keys and Rashina. And then, Miami-Dade, you have Morelia's team. So I don't see anyone else on there from healthcare coalitions, but I only can see a small small little window view. But I'll give you a little brief out of what we do. Even though we're considered healthcare coalitions, that's mainly because our main source of funding comes from the HPP grant, which is the Hospital Preparedness Program. So that trickles down from Health and Human Services through ASPR, and then Florida Department of Health manages that funding. That funding can be used for anything having to do with response, recovery, emergency preparedness. So we kind of hit a lot of the gaps that you all in your organizations sometimes struggle with funding wise. So if you haven't reached out or don't have a relationship with your healthcare coalition, I really, really urge you to do so. If you have any questions on who those people are or how to get in touch with them, please let me know. But I know Region 7 for all four of our counties, we're pretty well integrated, and I'm so happy to work with the other healthcare coalitions. And I do recognize a lot of your faces from FTEM last week. So again, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Mainly from a year-to-year basis, your healthcare coalitions, mine included, we have quarterly meetings, sometimes a little bit more, but our main focus is every fall, we conduct an HVA, which is our hazard and vulnerability assessment, and we use that vulnerability assessment to create the risk profile. A lot of you do your own, and then we look at what we need to exercise, what is the major risks within our counties, and obviously South Florida, we have a lot of the same things, and then we use that to see what we want to exercise in the spring, which we always host. We're required to host what we call a medical surge exercise, and that occurs usually every like April, May, sometimes into June. So that being said, if you're not participating with one of those exercises, definitely reach out to your healthcare coalition folks. And moving forward, probably the one thing I would ask for, just coming from the keys, kind of what Holly referred to before, like we are obviously a string of islands. We have a lot of our own issues just with egress. So when it comes to exercising, we normally like to exercise patient transport and movement. Just if we do have to go evacuate, we're coming up to one of your counties. And when we do exercise, sometimes when we're get to that transport aspect, that's kind of when the exercise ends. So I'm trying to get more people from, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade to participate in some of our upcoming exercises. That way, when we say, okay, we're going to Kendall, or we're going to Jackson, or we need Nicholas Children's, we have a contact from one of those that can kind of assist with whatever we're doing, if it is patient transport. Evacuation-wise, we do those exercises as well. So moving forward, I will put my information in the chat, but if you do have any questions, let me know. I work remotely, but I do have spaces at all of the Department of Health buildings throughout the Keys, which is Tavernier, Marathon, and Key West. And then our EOC and Marathon, and work very closely with the emergency managers, and then also obviously our EMS, fire rescue, and our hospital systems. And then lastly, in the Keys, we only have 3 hospitals. So all of our hospitals are acute care facilities. We don't have a trauma facility, as you all know. So we do rely heavily on our northern neighbors, and we appreciate that, whether we need, access to beds, or access to, helicopters or any type of patient movement assistance. And lastly, I do just want to leave you all with one metric. Even though we are considered a rural county, we are surged with over 3 million visitors a year. So when I do look at kind of our risk profiles, our bed counts, we only have 140 beds total in Monroe County. So if you want to compare that to Miami-Dade has over 10,000. So 140 in Monroe, 10,000 in Miami-Dade. When you're talking about people surging to those areas, obviously we're all big tourist counties. We have about 3 million visitors a year. Miami-Dade has over 28. So when you do that ratio of people to bed count, we have about 15,000 people fighting over one bed, whereas Miami-Dade has about 3,000. So that's a much better ratio. So we have a huge gap in just access to hospital beds. And that's one of the things I really like to focus on when we're looking for additional funding, when we're looking for additional county support. Obviously, when we're exercising and doing hurricane evacuations, our facility in FIU knows this very well. So if you want to get in touch or can think of anything that might help us or collaborate down the road, feel free to reach out. And Sandra, thanks again for having me. I love what you said earlier about, disasters don't discriminate against county lines. So I love that we all are working together, and thank you for putting us in the same room.
Of course, of course. And while we don't have Rashina or Kelly, I did see that in Broward, I think I saw Natasha and I saw Terry. So yeah, I am a huge fan of our healthcare coalition here in Broward. And again, it's always interesting when I started to work in this space, when I was voluntold to start working in this space in the aftermath of Irma. For someone who does what I do, to find these resources like the healthcare coalitions that are just so rich and doing such great work, and most people don't know about them. So appreciate you, Megan. And yeah, we do it regionally for a reason. So I'm happy to have you. Speaking of regional, we've got lots of really great regional partners, and we'll hear from some of them today. But I would argue that few of them have leaders that are as charming and dynamic and charismatic as Katie Marr from Neighbors for Neighbors. I don't want to steal her thunder, but the only thing that I will say is that Neighbors for Neighbors has been a really valuable partner since their inception after Hurricane Andrew. And for those of us that grew up in South Florida, you know Neighbors for Neighbors and you know how great they are. And I really just wanted to provide Katie with an opportunity to talk about the great work that they do, specifically in the disaster space, because while they have grown into doing so many more awesome and wonderful things, it really did start in this long-term recovery area post Hurricane Andrew. So, Katie, thank you for joining us, and take it away.
Oh, and thank you, Sandra. And my charm comes from my delusional trauma. So no, it really just comes from the experience of knowing that. I mean, our mission is to connect those in need with those who can help. But I call us the Robin Hood of nonprofits, and I'm not above stealing. And what we've done and what has been so successful, and what actually made our organization an organization, because you'll see the Channel 4 logo in our logo, but we are a separate 501c3. But initially, we were a television campaign, a response to the storm. And what we did worked so well, using the power of media to bring the community together to help in times of need. And also, I think what makes us also unique that a lot of people don't know about is weeding through the baloney and behind the scenes, right? Getting to the crux of where the problems are and finding unique resources and unique ways to help, whether like after Hurricane Ian, our partners at Global Empowerment Mission had tons of supplies but didn't have enough trucks. So we called our friends at City Furniture, and they gave us more trucks. And they have a moving company, by the way. So in case you want to move your stuff, City Furniture has an arm. But that's the thing. It's like, who can we call? And I'm never afraid to ask for anybody to help. And so that's our biggest, as the kids would say, our biggest flex is that resource connector, and then also that power of media. So we have basically a permanent partnership with Channel 4, where, like I said, we're a separate 501c3, but we have airtime with them, and we have their ear so that we can say, hey, this is what the community needs. Here's the person you can interview, and get through the red tape of it all and get the message out of all the work that you guys are doing and help you. So that's what I want to continue to be, is that person who is listening on that call, finding out where the gaps are, who's missing what, who needs what, and get you all connected, and then get the community. The other thing we've always done too is fundraising. And so since we're a 501c3, we'll set up the whatever fund. So from even when Surfside, the building collapsed, to, Ian, Irma, you name, I can't, my files and my emails are all like names of people, as opposed to like such and such document. It's like Irma, Helene. By the way, fun fact, Helene was actually named after my mother. My uncle used to be a hurricane hunter. And he was able decades ago to put her name in. And boy, let me tell you, that storm and my mother, about the same. So yeah, crazy story. And Hurricane Kate was my aunt years ago, back in the 80s, I think Hurricane Kate hit. And so I hope Katie doesn't come up with a Y, but we want to be there for you guys in whatever. So we used to help all over. whether it was outside of our borders, but now we're staying within the state of Florida and the Caribbean. So we've helped with Dorian, things like that. So if a storm hits across the way, when the Bahamas hit, we were able to get in fact, the Roofers Association involved, and they donated all their old equipment because everything was underwater in the Keys, right? Or in the Bahamas. So all those drills, all this equipment was saltwater, ruined, right? So we said, perfect time for you to buy new equipment, donate your gently used equipment, and we got boats and brought it across the way. So just to give you an idea of some of the fun and different ways that we can help, but we don't see county lines and at all as well. And so we're so excited to be part. And I'm also on the board of the the long-term recovery group here in Miami-Dade, which, with Irma, so much money came in, we were still fixing roofs as a couple of years ago. It's disheartening to know that funding's being cut, but it's heartwarming to know that we all are going to stay and work as much together as we can, and then just evoke the community's help. I mean, there's a lot of private partners out there that won't let bad things happen. And so I think together we can, we've had to do it anyway. Like, Broward mentioned, but they haven't gotten any money for all that stuff anyhow. So we'll have to get it from private sector. But that's my story. And like I said, delusional. I'm delusional. So happily and forever.
Whatever you want to call it, we appreciate you for sure. We very much appreciate you. All right, we are moving on to the American Red Cross, and I think there is no single nonprofit organization that serves a larger role throughout the disaster continuum, and perhaps I would sometimes argue the most, what's the word that I'm looking for? The most
nimble.
The most, for sure, most nimble, but also the most misunderstood. That's the word that I was looking for. The most misunderstood. I think that while, the impetus of this convening several years ago was really so that folks better understand what government can and cannot do before or after a storm. Through my relationship with the wonderful folks at American Red Cross, we find that same issue really happens with them. And so I know that Gary does have a presentation. Harrison, I don't know if you want to cue that up or if you're able to do that, but I definitely want to turn it over to Gary Pelletier. Am I
Yeah,
pronouncing that correctly?
Pelletier. Yes.
Oh, Zach!
And
Gary,
well,
are you
it's
on
coming up
Zach?
as Zach Stokes, and I haven't been able to figure that out as to why. But my name's Gary Pelletier, and thanks so much, Sandra, for the opportunity. I'm the Deputy Regional Disaster Officer for South Florida, and it's not allowing me to pull up my presentation, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, well, let it.
I'm gonna do that.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
Harrison's
you
going
so
to pull up
much.
your presentation in just a minute. And Gary, we're happy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. So as one of the things that we have continued to focus on this past year specifically is our readiness and preparedness within our partners and doing a lot of different training. So next slide, please. Thank you so much. So we do shelter in a day trainings for partners. So if you do have a partner or community organization in the community, we can do what we call a shelter in a day. Another training opportunity that we do have is since Hurricane Milton and Helene, we have two types of damage assessment programs. One is called Damage Assessment Observe, and that really allows us to engage our external partners to be a part of the damage assessment process with us. So it's a quick training that we do. It's a little different from doing our 360 assessments when we walk around the house, but it's interactive. It helps us engage with groups that may not be able to give more than a few days of time. And so that's why we have that program. We also have other specific initiatives going on where we're really focusing in specific communities, Palm Beach, Broward, Miami, and Monroe are definitely on the top of our list for this, but this is the Shelter Heroes campaign. And so we've been doing some targeting recruitment to build up our shelter capacity, and that's working with both partners and also the general public. So I know that we have been doing training in all of the 4 counties this year with both partners, but also we've seen some more shelter workers come in over the last year. Another opportunity for us to connect and work together is we don't own shelter facilities. And so that is something that we are always trying to work with municipal agencies with, the counties, but also our partners, church groups, large buildings that may be able to have a setup as a shelter. So if you know of any facility that may be open to that, please let us know. We can not only do an assessment and come in and train their folks up in sheltering, but we also want to show our appreciation as well. And so we have some community certificates that we provide for that too. So so that's something that we have been really focusing on, especially in the counties that this group represents. And then preparedness education. So I do just want to highlight that we have these programs. We have the Penguin Prepare with Pedro, but we also have our Be Red Cross Ready. That is our all hazard specific weather safety and hazard training program. And so we have all of the hazards, extreme heat, lightning, tornadoes, all of these different educational pamphlets that our partners can also utilize as well. So please reach out if you're ever looking for a specific hazard. And then our home fire campaign. This is the program that we do with a lot of the fire departments in the community with, and someone can request free smoke alarms 24/7 online or by calling us. And we also have the opportunity to give fire departments smoke alarms too when we can go out and do an installation. So I just wanted to highlight our preparedness education program is still around. We did bring back the from the beginning program of water safety whales tales. So we are trying to get that out as well for community partners. Next slide, please. Sandra, did I lose you?
Oh, did it not change?
There we go. Now I see it. Sorry, delay on my end. So
Okay.
yeah, the feeding vendor agreements, we are every year we look for new feeding vendor agreements and we update those. But on the response side, if we do have a shelter that has opened at the county's request, or if there was a hurricane and we're in that recovery phase and operating a shelter, we do have a shelter resident transition program. And so we'll focus on getting those clients transitioned out of the shelter. We can provide financial assistance to help their needs with that, and it's really trying to help work the client into a better space where they can recover. We do mobile feeding, but we want to coordinate with our partners, so Salvation Army and some of the other community feeding partners, because one of the response focus areas that we're intentional with is we don't want to be providing the same service in a given community that maybe another partner is already providing. So we want to have those conversations and plan effectively, and that would be with the emergency managers as well. Same thing for DES supplies. We've done a better job since Helene, going into conversations with the county and partners and saying, what is the community really needing on the supply side, having that conversation. And then if it is a non-standard item that is not within our regular program, we'll look to procure those items. And we saw that a lot in North Carolina and South Carolina during Helene. So we're getting better at that. And then I already touched on DA, but I'll save questions about DA for the end. On the individual disaster care side, we do have volunteers, and we're always looking to partner with those who may have nurses or mental health practitioners in spiritual care. So these specific responders not only help our clients impacted by house fires day to day, but also when we have the larger disasters. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then on the immediate assistance side, so we do have our IA program, and that is based off of the damage assessment that is done. And so something that is new is that we have a new flyer when an immediate assistance program is launched, where the general public can go online and sign up their resident address if they are in need of immediate assistance. And then we'll work on the hotshot side for the damage assessment. So there's a QR code that will be submitted for that specific disaster, and then also a link. We're always working on building up our resources and referrals for casework. The bridge assistance is on specific larger disasters like Helene, Milton, Idalia. Some of the larger, the Broward floods, we definitely did a bridge assistance on. But this is a secondary immediate assistance allocation of funds that can be given out to clients, and on top of their original IA amount, right? And so based off of the damage and need, that's what bridge assistance is for. And then long-term recovery. Our programs get stood up based off of the donations that we have for that specific disaster, and we'll continue to work with LTR groups and continue to help with those recovery assistance programs as we can. So with that, I'll see if there's any questions.
Gary, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions for Gary or the Red Cross? I am definitely going to give a plug, and Gary, hopefully you could put it in the chat for Be Ready. I think that Be Ready is something that is a great resource that everyone should really be taking a look at and seriously considering going through the process for their organization. It's always better to be prepared.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for that. It wasn't Zach's info, it was Gary. Gary, are you able to share your contact info and maybe drop
Yes.
in the Go Ready website?
Yeah, we'll still show up as Zach Stokes, but I'll put my information in.
Thank you.
Yep.
Christine Shaw from FPL. Again, same theme. You know, everyone wants to complain about FPL before, during, and after a storm. And yet, when you see the depth and breadth of what FPL is doing for our community before, during, and after a storm, I think this is one of those critical places where, as folks that are out in the community, can really help to level set and can really help survivor victims better understand the process by which FPL handles everything during hurricane season. So Christine, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being such a great community partner.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. And I just want to make sure everybody can see the full screen of my presentation.
Yep, hurricane season overview. I see it.
Okay, perfect. So as mentioned, I'm Christine Shaw. I'm the External Affairs Manager in the North Broward area. So just give you a quick insight. So we are the largest utility in Florida. You can see in all the blue, we cover 43 counties, which equates to about 12 million account holders, customers that we service. So got to keep that in mind when we are doing storms, when hurricanes come through and they impact more than one part of the state. These are all the areas that we are responding to and doing recovery efforts for. So as we know, in years past, I think it was mentioned earlier, we've had a lot of experiences with hurricanes. And because of that, we have spent the last 2 decades investing in our infrastructure and our grid to make sure that our recovery efforts are quicker, that folks get power back sooner, and that the amount of time that people are without power and is minimized and you can get back to normal. We have spent time, we harden our transmission, distribution, and main power lines. We've also done a lot of undergrounding for our lateral lines, which are neighborhood lines. So we've done a lot of investments in our infrastructure. And I do want to caution that there's no such thing as a storm-proof grid, but the investments we've made is to make sure that we can, again, get our folks back on power and back to normal quicker, sooner than later. Again, we remember the times when we had 14 days, 3 weeks, no power. Those days are gone. I think one of the last ones we had, it was like within 4 days, we were able to get most folks that were able to safely receive power back up. So that's our goal, is to get people back up very quickly with these investments. Sorry, there's animation in this thing. Getting used to this. It's a new deck they gave us. Part of the investments we've also made are with our smart grids. This allows us to remotely see our system, be able to triage where we might, and this is both in blue skies and gray skies. So if there's an issue, if there's any repairs that need to be made, we don't need to be on site. We can kind of look at this remotely and make those repairs, or triage that one area, maybe put folks on a different power source while we repair one side and then get them back on to their main power source. We also use drones for our recovery restoration efforts. So immediately following a storm, as soon as it's safe to do so, we will deploy drones to survey the area. This is to look at our infrastructure, our grid, to see what repairs need to be made, where our systems might be showing some issues, that we can take a look at that. And again, we're not waiting for debris to be cleared. We're not waiting for waters to recede. We send these drones out and they can give us a very good assessment of our infrastructure, what's happening to our system, so that we can start immediately making those repairs or sending the proper resources to that area. In this one photo, you can see FPL Air 1. That is a manless drone that we deployed during Ian. And this gave us the ability to do long flights. So we were able to survey the entire West Coast that was impacted by Ian and take those images, that information. And again, this gives us insight into what needs to repair, what infrastructure is damaged, and what we need to do to triage and start working on recovery efforts for our residents. So this is a photo of our command center. And this is important, that regardless of where there is an emergency, whether we are working from the Broward EOC or Sarasota or the Panhandle, Miami, all information is centralized to our command center, which is located in West Palm Beach. And this is all teams. We have distribution, transmission, all the different organizations, parts of power delivery are housed here. So they're able to take the information that we're giving them, the situations, what's ever happened out in the field, bring that here, and then they can then decide and help us determine where to put resources, how to get what needs to be where, as in real time. So just real quick, every employee of FPL has a storm role, myself included. So during a hurricane, we are activated. I am actually assigned to the Broward EOC. When I first started 3 months on the job during Ian, I was actually deployed over to Sarasota and worked there and helped support the recovery efforts over there. So regardless of where the storm hits, we're either going to be local supporting, or we're going to be deployed to make sure that we have all hands on deck. Which also goes to say that if you are emailing your local person and you're getting an out of office message, that's because they are focusing on the recovery efforts and making sure that we get folks who do not have power back on power as quick as possible. This gives a little insight into how our grid and how we plan to do our restoration efforts. The number one thing is, once we've assessed our system and made any repairs or determinations of what needs to be repaired to make sure that we can distribute power down our grid, the next thing we will look at is the critical infrastructure. That would be your hospitals, police, fire stations, 911 facility, communication facilities, And then we will get those restored, and that's a list that that's already been predetermined that we work off of. There's no phone calls trying to say, hey, we need this done, this done. This is something that we've already agreed to, that we know this is what the first line of defense that we're going to start working on. After that, then we start working on your major thoroughways, and that includes places with supermarkets, gas stations, pharmacies. So trying to get the places that are supporting the community back up as quickly as possible as well, so people can get back to normal. From there, and this is all happening in tangent, but just so you know, these are our priorities where we're focusing first. Then we start working on the neighborhoods and residentials. But really, it's about making sure people can get the resources, access they need, and they're getting folks back on power. And we always say as safely and quickly as possible, because safety is always our first priority when it comes to power restoration. And this here again just goes through some of the areas that we are focusing on and where we are focusing our efforts immediately. Most of you know this, I won't go through this, but this is just sort of part of what we tell folks, to have a storm plan. You can also go to fpl.com/storm. There's a lot of information here, not only for residents, but also for businesses on what they should be doing on their end to prepare for storm. I know typically we say you should prepare for 3 days. I think with the last few storms and the amount of flooding, I would say make it 7 days, making sure that you have a communication plan, making sure that you have what you need so that you're not risking your life and others' lives by being on the road, that you can kind of shelter in place until roads are clear, street lights are working again, really trying to minimize your having people out on the road who don't need to be, while first responders are out there trying to make this safe and getting everybody back to normal. And then there's a lot of ways that we provide updates and information for our restoration efforts. Again, for those like myself who are in EOC, we're working directly with the EOC directors and those folks in that room on what we're doing, and again, taking back what they need back to our folks. But for the layman, they can go, there's emails, there's website, if you have the app, you can get updates through there. Social media, we're going on radio, we're going on TV, so the community knows what we're doing, what we're focused on, and trying to give them the idea of where we think the restoration timeline will be. And then I love this photo because this shows that regardless of what time that we're doing this 24/7, we are working around the clock to get folks back on power. Like I said, within 24 hours, we're out there assessing, and then we begin our restoration efforts. And I always like to tell folks, you may not see our trucks, you may not see us out there, but we're working. We could be 3 miles down the road fixing a substation that will then get your neighborhood powered, or we have our folks who are remoting in to our infrastructure and making sure that they're getting things done. So just because you may not see us, we are out there, but there is nothing that is more awesome though when you see those line of trucks going down the road with FP on the side. So regardless of whether you see us, you don't, we are out there and we are working very hard to get you back to normal. And that is the end of my presentation, and I could end sharing. I don't know if there's any questions.
Christine, thank you so much for that. And again, we appreciate the partnership of FPL. Does anyone have any questions for Christine that don't include, can you get my power back on right away?
I did forget to mention, so sharing my information actually probably won't be that helpful because there's a Christine Shaw in every county, in every region. So what I would actually recommend is to find out who your local FPL person is and connect with them before a storm. Find out who's going to be signed to your EOC and make sure you're getting with them. They're pretty good. My folks are pretty good at doing that. I met with Clay recently. We've done some training already. So that would actually be the best bet because they're going to have the local resources. They're going to help support your area post-storm.
Great. Again, Christine, thank you so much. Really appreciate that update and really appreciate you being such a critical partner. And I'm just glad that I'm in the FPL service area for sure. Moving on, last but certainly not least, we come to Volunteer Florida. And I know that we've had a bunch of presentations and it hasn't been as interactive, so most of you aren't on screen. And so under normal circumstances, now is when I would try and engage everyone and say, please raise your hand if you've heard, you know what, you could do that without without turning on your screen. So by a show of hands, if you could please use the Zoom capabilities to raise your hand if you are familiar with Volunteer Florida. Robin, let's see what comes in. Okay. Definitely want to emphasize the value and importance of Volunteer Florida. If you are a Florida-based nonprofit, you absolutely positively need to know who Volunteer Florida is and what it is that they do, because if your community is hit by a storm, Volunteer Florida is the hero that comes in with a cape when you least expect it to help support everyone. And so, Robin, really happy that you're here. And like I said, more than happy to turn it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Sandra. Again, for those of you who've not met me, I'm the new Deputy Director under Chrissy Rojas. I'm here at Volunteer Florida. For those of you, again, since only 25% raise their hands, Volunteer Florida is formally the Governor's Commission on Community Service. We go by Volunteer Florida, that's our name. But in 96, we were identified as the lead agency with the state of Florida, with FDEM as the ESF 15 lead. So when there's an emergency, we are in the the state EOC, and we're sitting at that volunteer and donation desk. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background as far as how we're related in with the state itself, with Department of Emergency Management. But by our name, we are not a direct service agency, Volunteer Florida. So that's super important that you guys know that. We do have a foundation, a 501c3 here at Volunteer Florida, that allows us to collect both monetary and physical in-kind donations. And so our role is to support and coordinate with all of you guys, with all those nonprofit organizations that are doing the amazing work on the ground, especially after a disaster. So our platform, we have a lot at Volunteer Florida, but our platform is to support you guys and coordinate those volunteers. One of the ways that we have a coordination of volunteers is we offer for free on our Volunteer Florida website, the Volunteer Connect platform. So know that you can go in there, you can publish your organization, you can say, hey, we need volunteers. Believe it or not, people look at our website from all over, looking for opportunities to come into Florida to volunteer, or they're trying to get connected in their own town and don't know where to look. So know that the Volunteer Connect is there. And again, for those of you looking at Volunteer Florida, just one more background, and then I'll tell you what we do after a storm. We basically work across three main areas within our business, and that is that we do volunteer services, like I just told you about the Volunteer Connect, promoting volunteerism in the state of Florida. We have a national service, which is the AmeriCorps program here at Volunteer Florida. And then, of course, we have the emergency management platform, and that's what I'm part of with Chrissy Rojas and our emergency coordinator, Peyton Midtoom. So with that being said, let's talk about what we do after a storm and how we help you and how we get connected. So we coordinate volunteers. We direct them and people where they're needed most. We reduce, of course, that spontaneous volunteerism that comes up when the governor says, hey, we need volunteers. We put it on our platform. Please volunteer. And then if you guys are saying, hey, we need them there, we point them in those directions through our website and through phone calls that come to the state. We also, again, reach out to you guys. We're saying, hey, who needs what where, right? And within the state after a disaster. We coordinate and manage donations. Boy, do we ever. As we all know, that donations are the second disaster within the disaster. So we're always coordinating those. And when you guys become overwhelmed with major donations after a disaster, the last couple of disasters have opened a state disaster donation center. And then we get those out to our nonprofits and letting them know what's there and what they can use. So you can actually then go to that multi-agency donation warehouse and get the donations that you need. And of course, we work with those trusted partners, ensuring that those are distributed effectively and they're not wasted, right? We don't want those donations to go somewhere, as we all know happens, and then not be used. And of course, then we definitely connect and coordinate our partners. So one of the main things after disaster that we do is want to know where the boots are on the ground and who is needed, and seeing where those things are needed, right? So we do the communication, coordination, collaboration, and cooperation within all of our nonprofits. We work hand in hand with our Florida VOAD. We are not the Florida VOAD, but we do work hand in hand with our Florida volunteer organizations active in disaster. For those of you who don't know who's obviously at our state Florida VOAD, you can go on and see on that website who the members are. Obviously, you guys are a part of the long-term recovery, so you know all about that. But we also have access to our national VOAD, Partners After a Disaster, and we will direct them coming in and helping. And of course, then we work directly with you guys, right? After disaster. So we're saying, hey, that ESF 15 lead who's there, boots on the ground, what's needed, what's our long-term recovery group doing? And you know, we try to make sure that those gaps that are there get filled in. So when she said that we have the CAPE, we try to get those private sector and nonprofit partners together to working with your VOAB, working with that long-term recovery group there locally. And of course, we also try to make sure you're getting state resources when they're needed. And so when we hear that from what you guys need, we put that request in at the state. And then of course, then after, you know, we know that the governor puts on the call for donations, and that is monetary. So we also here at Volunteer Florida manage the federal disaster case management program, as well as the Florida Disaster Fund. So those are crazy things that we are doing this year in the Florida Disaster Fund. I'm sure some of you might have seen. We put out application for funding for Helene and Milton work, and those funds went out, oh my goodness, October of last year for funding, and there's still ongoing work that's being done with those funds. And let's see, what else we do. We work with you guys in long-term recovery groups, making sure that work is not being duplicated, and making sure you guys have, you know, those resources so you can get, as you said at the very beginning, Sandra, that the vulnerable are not left behind, right? That you have those unmet needs and that you're meeting those effectively. So if we have partners that are coming in, we'll send them your way as best as we can, right? And to meet those needs. So really the biggest thing is we're a big connector, right? Of resources, of knowing he's on the ground, trying to get those resources to you, and just hearing you are and collaborating, right, with one another. We know that you guys as volunteers are the first in and first out, and we're trying to be right there with you, trying to make sure that you are getting your area rebuilt and restored the best as it can be after a storm, right? So we're coordinating that non-government side. So that's in a nutshell what we do. I can answer questions probably if anybody has any on specific things that we work with one-on-one. Like, so if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take those for you.
Robin, thank you so much for that. And like I said, if you could just drop in your contact information in the Volunteer Florida website, it really is a fantastic resource for all of our partners. Does anyone have any questions for Robin? No. Okay. Well, again, I want to thank all of our government partners and all of our nonprofit partners that reported out today. Our goal was simple. It was just to make sure that the lines of communication are open at the beginning of hurricane season. It was a reminder that Mother Nature does not see county lines. And again, a great opportunity just to level set so that all of you are now empowered to go out and level set amongst your organizations and the stakeholders that you work with, so that in the event of a disaster, we are better prepared than we were before. We will continue to send out emails through our online list serve, so you'll continue to receive information about different happenings that are going around. I did want to give a quick shout out. I don't know if we have anyone here from legal aid, but we know that legal aid here in Broward does have a van that goes around after a storm to help folks sign up for different types of assistance, and lots of great resources. All of those resources should be listed on our website, LTRC Broward. And unless anyone has any questions, I am more than happy to end this call early and give you all back a little bit of time. Any questions? All right, hearing none, you could certainly keep in touch with us again through our website or on social media. A big thank you to Harrison for stepping in for Yana today. A big thank you for all of our government partners, FDEM, Monroe, Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach, and to all of our value community partners, nonprofits, and of course FPL that reported out today. For those of you that shared your contact information, I thank you for that. We have a number of partners on here that didn't necessarily report out, but still are incredibly valuable. We had 211 on our call today. I think I saw that we also had United Way Broward, Team Rubicon. I know that we had folks from GEM. We had representatives from our area agency on aging. Disaster preparedness, disaster management, and post-disaster recovery is a responsibility of all of us as a community. I think it's important to be reminded that it is only the largest storms that really receive a fundraising effort, and after the media leaves is when the real work begins. So these relationships are incredibly valuable. Yes, Natasha, I gave you a shout out when Megan was reporting out from the Keys. I'm glad that you're here. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. Keep in touch, and hopefully we can continue to stay in contact during blue skies, but stay safe, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you.